Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning. We're proud of you for making it out this morning, given the attendee party last night and our enviable Friday morning time. My name's David Howell. I'm a group program manager at Microsoft. I work in our identity team, and I handle our security and protection efforts. And I'd like to introduce Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Weinert. I'm also in the identity security and protection team with Dave, and we're psyched to show you some of the stuff we're bringing to Azure Identity for Protection. And I also wanted to give kudos for the hardcore people who stayed through after the party and into Friday morning. It's
there
impressive.
we go. So hopefully we'll make it worth your while. We're going to go through just some framework about how we think about security and protection, but then we're going to sort of jump right into a long kind of extended demo where we show you the product and we interact with it and show you a bunch of things. So hopefully it'll be interesting for you. All right, so let me just get started with a few slides. Which one? Okay, so what we're focused on today is how does Microsoft Azure Active Directory help prevent, detect, and remediate attacks on your enterprise. And those are three pretty important words in our framework. And you'll see them kind of come up at a few moments as we go through the presentation. It's a framework for how we think about things. It's also a framework for how we think you should be working to sort of keep your identity system safe. So let's just start by talking a little bit about Active Directory. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with what we've been doing with Azure Active Directory. Anyone want to show me familiarity? Okay, so actually pretty good. Maybe two.
How many of you are actually using Azure AD?
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
How many are using Office 365 and don't know they're using Azure Active Directory? Oh, we got one. Okay, good. We run into that a fair bit. So the old traditional world you had, just set the stage, was that kind of the circle down the bottom. For many years, we tried to lock everything down on premises. So you had sort of your Active Directory on premises, you had your managed machines, you had your servers, you tried to create a perimeter around that, and you just tried to keep the bad guys out. Of course, what happened was, your users started bringing personal devices into work, and they still wanted to access, their assets from when they were traveling. They wanted to get at things from over the internet. And then you also had some of your employees went out, and then they started buying software as a service applications. They were buying Salesforce and Google Apps and things like that. And then they would start creating different credentials for that. And then so this ecosystem started happening around the company. And your security boundary extended out there into the internet. So what we, and this is over the last several years or so, what we at Microsoft did was we said, okay, well, we need to address this, these needs of our customers. And so we went and we extended Active Directory out into the cloud. And that's what Azure Active Directory is. It's an extension of your directory out to the cloud. We do it in sort of a secure way. And we give you this federation point out there in the cloud to hook up all those people bringing in their personal devices, all those other SaaS applications. We try to help you bring that all back under management. And so that's sort of where we stand today, and that's just sort of the footprint for it, but now we're just going to dive into, and so a lot of our discussion, and when we show you demos, we'll be demoing things to do with Microsoft Azure Directory and how it works with your organization. So you want to just take me forward? So now we're just going to get right into security, and we want to talk about how do we think about kind of the protection framework for you. So first of all, we start at the outside. So there's a whole lot of shadow IT going on that you may or may not be aware of. So those are all those users that have gone out there and signed up for something. And they didn't do it through IT. They just went and bought CRM, or they went and bought some sort of social media. Or they might have gone on social media on behalf of your company. They've gone out there and they've used their own credentials and their own usernames and passwords. And the problem here is they might have gone to Dropbox, is they're putting corporate data out there in these other services, and they're also using their own credentials. And then if they leave your company, they often walk away with that, with access to that corporate information, and they walk away with, potentially corporate data, and that's a security problem. So the first thing is, we try to help you discover shadow IT, and we want to bring it in. And then that white line is the perimeter of your security boundary. And what's inside that perimeter? Well, it's like your house. You got your walls, and then you got your stuff inside. So all your corporate assets are inside. So that white line, think about that as like locks on the door of your house. right? So we want to give you like really good, strong locks. So we have a bunch of features around kind of protecting your corporate assets, and we'll walk through some of those today. And they go beyond username and password. They go into like strong authentication, conditional access, other types of things you can do to sort of strengthen that boundary. But even then, that's not enough. You know, you kind of need, for your organization, you need that, you know, burglar sort of alarm system. You need your, you know, that blanking, the burglar alarm system. I thought there was a better name for it. But anyway, all right, so you need that, right? You need that sort of security system. There we go. You need that security system for your organization, because even if they get in past the door, you know, you still want your glass breaks and your motion detectors and all those sorts of things to detect compromise. And you know, it might be somebody in your own organization doing something bad as well. And the best locks don't keep somebody who's inside already, you know, from doing bad stuff. So that's where we kind of have identity protection, making your identities really safe and secure, security policy, giving you policy to have like a really strong boundary, but also attack detection and monitoring. So that's sort of our framework, and we're going to demonstrate a bunch of this stuff today. And I'm going to hand it off to Alex. He's going to walk through the bad guys and kind of their ecosystem, and then we're going to kind of get into the first part of our demo, and then he'll hand back to me later.
All right, so the second part of the framework we want to talk about, that was, you know, that's kind of the conceptual, like, you know, what are the things you need to do. Before, Dave and I joined forces in November. For the last couple of years, and actually still today, I'm responsible for protection for the Microsoft account system, which is our consumer account system. It protects all the accounts in Xbox, phone, Windows, like anything where there's a consumer, kind of a B2C relationship between Microsoft and a customer. And so we do a lot of volume. We do, you know, tens of billions of logins a day, hundreds of millions of accounts per day. And the framework that we kind of have, you know, worked together to winnow out as we looked at the enterprise stuff and the consumer stuff looks actually more similar than different, right? The protection ecosystem that we've built at this very, very high scale is actually very applicable in the enterprise environment as well. One of the things that David and I are doing together is bringing all those things together so we can do a better job of protection in the enterprise environment using some of what we learned in the consumer environment and some of those relationships we've built. So, you know, the way that we talk about things inside the team is, you know, prevent is priority one. You always want to stop the bad thing from happening. Detect, right? You can't be perfect on prevention, so you do detection. And then remediation is what you do after you've done your detection. And so that's kind of the framework that we use inside the team. It's the framework that, you know, we think about our technology in. And one of the things I wanted to just touch on is that prevention is not, it doesn't just start with the technology piece, right? There's a piece of it which is user education, having good policies, making people understand not to reuse their credentials at multiple sites. And we see a ton of it, and I know it's, you know, it can probably feel like the guy that pushes the rock up the hill, Sisyphus, right? You know, like you're just, I've told you so many times, don't reuse your password. But of course people do, and so we have to, you know, look at that next step. And the next step for us, does anybody have like an Outlook account, Xbox account? And no, somebody. All right.
Don't be embarrassed by that. Put your hand.
So if you have one of those, at some point you went through a process where we said, hey, we need you to verify your security info. And after a while, if you're one of those people who didn't want to, we actually stopped you from logging in and said, no, really, you have to verify your security info. So we took that step because we found that with the amount of compromise and fraud that was happening, without having that secondary channel for communication and without having that secondary authentication mechanism, we couldn't, in a reliable way, prevent the attacks. Because as it turns out, if you stop somebody from logging in and they have no alternative, they get really upset too, right? And so one of the things I want to just drive home today, if you hear nothing else, is that getting your users prepared for multi-factor auth is huge. It's just a huge step. And for us, it's been a massive win. Yes, there's a friction point where you have to say, yeah, let it call your phone. But that's also a rehearsal step for them, right? If they ever get, you know, they're traveling and they get interrupted, then they know the process. They've done it once, right? And so it's a little bit easier. And that's had just a tremendous impact for us. And I think it'll have a tremendous impact in your organizations. And we'll touch on MFA again later. The other thing I want to touch on this slide is that we have a tremendous partnership. We have a partnership with law enforcement, with governmental agencies, with security researchers, with our industry partners at, you know, basically everywhere, any big IDP that you want to think about in the consumer space, we have relationships with them. And we work together to identify threat patterns and to, you know, do things like, hey, we're seeing a malware signature here, or, you know, we look at DCU with our botnet tracking and takedowns. And all that partnership is something that we've been using aggressively in the consumer space to kind of control the fraud problem. And we're bringing that online now into the Azure AD space. So that's a piece of it as well. All right. I want to talk just briefly about what we see in the day-to-day fight. David and I were at dinner last night. I was joking that
this is where I put on my balaclava.
Yeah. that every day I go to work with a plan for what I'm going to do, and then I get to work and I find out what I'm actually going to do. Right? And I don't actually usually have to wait to get to work. Usually somebody texts me before I get there, right? There's like, hey, be aware there's an incident. So we go in and I'm doing, to some extent, the same kind of job that many of you guys are doing if you're in security response, right? Which is I go in and I have incidents I have to track. So we've gotten to know our enemies very well. And we're not in an ecosystem where, as popular media would kind of have it, where a pimply-faced hacker is sitting in his mom's basement, with like stale pizza on the desk, and like getting told to take out the trash, right? Like that might have been me when I was 13, and it actually pretty much was, but it's not these guys, right? This industry in 2014 cost us collectively $500 billion, right? $500 billion. The amount of damage that we see, to a consumer now is tremendous. I had, I won't name any names, but I had a case that I dealt with recently that was $37,000 in direct damages to an individual. Drained his bank accounts, his investment accounts. This was not just the identity theft part, which you can remediate. This was actually direct cash losses, right? Money's gone. And when we see that kind of attack footprint, that's real money, and it's a real industry. And like any real industry, industries gain efficiencies, right? You get competitors in the industry. You get people who are, I'm building the better SDK for hacking the account. I've got the better support team, right? And these guys, they have support teams. They have help files. They do the whole thing, right? The graphic on the bottom right is a really beautiful graphic of how, just like we've all moved into IaaS and PaaS, and software as a service, the bad guys move there with us. You can buy social graphs online. Very often when you think you've been hacked because your friends are getting mail from you and it's to your friends and it looks so real, look at the sender's address. It's very often not going to be. I don't need your actual account anymore. I can make it look just like you because I've stolen enough other accounts to draw the map of who knows who and who sends mail to who. So a phishing attack gets very real, right? It's very, very easy to make it look very authentic. So we have a protection chain, and the graphic on the bottom right is Chicago in 2003. This is just the Chicago area, like we're the red dot.
Yeah, that's the McCormick Center there, right?
That's the McCormick Center, right? And that was the botnet in Citadel, a botnet called Citadel. 5 million machines worldwide the DCU identified and took down. And the way you take them down is you take down the command and control center for them, right? And some other time we'll get beers and I can tell you about how those things work. But it's crazy efficient. It's brilliant, hardcore software engineering. And just as a little bonus, oh, I hit the wrong button. Save me.
Yep.
Here we go. I found it.
There you go.
All right. We're going to talk a little bit through, this is my very simple graphic of kind of this chain that happens, right? People, everybody know about the Anthem breach? We were debating whether people would know Anthem. Right. Anthem, 80 million, I think it was 80 million medical records, insurance records stolen. All the PII, payment instruments, social security, your medical history, birth date, relationships. It's all there. It's all in the wild, right? A breach like that is tremendous for identity thieves. How many of the websites that you participate on would let you back in based on that? Equifax was breached. LexisNexis was breached. Best Buy was breached. Target was breached, right? All these sites give up data. They kind of release data into the ecosystem. And with that data, I can form a beautiful phishing attack. And I can go and get you to give me more data. Because you're going to come to my website, and along with verifying your credentials or giving them to me for the first time, you're going to tell me the region you're in, the browser you use, the machine you run on, the services you use. Right? So all of that telemetry is up for grabs now. And now I have a very good fingerprint on how to emulate you in the environment. I'm also going to go ahead and infect your machine while I'm there. Because I can always use more bots, right? And then this cycle continues. Now the botnets are used to establish other attacks. And we go back and we just repeat. If I need to attack your enterprise from within your city, I can do it by just renting time on a botnet. It's really quite, it's just very efficient. This is a phishing. So I sent one of our safety teams. We're constantly in battle against phishing campaigns and fake sites. This mail I sent yesterday, I said, I need a phishing site that's up right now. Okay, we take them down as fast as we find them. We'll work, in this case, with Google, let them know about it, we get the takedown done. But you'll notice here that that is a pretty authentic looking page. Right? Somebody says, hey, there's something wrong with your account, come sign in. Right? Or come check out our new feature. And you go there, and it looks real authentic. And if you're not paying attention, in you go. Now, in Internet Explorer, we have this warning, the red bar. You know how many people click through that red bar who just ignore it? It's like 98%. Right? I mean, it's like, you're going into danger. Okay, I'm going.
Don't worry. After we finish scaring you for the next couple of slides, we start telling you how we can make it better too. By the way, so
right. So, all right. So this is a great little tool. I just want you to look at how friendly it is. Welcome. How would you like to steal people's accounts? Okay. So what this one is you send it a list of either usernames or usernames and passwords, and it'll go through and try a bunch of different protocols for you and categorize them into tidy little files so you can say which accounts are valid and can send email, which ones are valid but can't send email, which ones seem to be locked right now. Okay? And the configuration of this thing will allow me to say, go ahead and try that username and password on Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, every major provider, Facebook, Twitter, let's keep going. So if your credentials from your enterprise are breached, somebody is going to test them against every other site and vice versa, right? And then when we see corporate domains, one of the things you'll see here is that, I'll show you this in a second, is that they actually will do smtp.yourdomain, mail at your domain. They'll test every prefix they can to try to find a server that will accept those creds. And it's all automated. And to be clear, this isn't the tool that the genius, evil overlord does. This is the tool that dude just sells out into the ecosystem. So that anybody with $80 for that tool can buy it and get support and get free updates for a year and $30 for the next year.
They have phone support.
And they have phone support. Okay, why do they exist? Well, they all operate in countries that nobody prosecutes. So we can't get them. The governments of the countries where these guys sell from won't prosecute cybercrime, which is probably 60% of the governments in the world. It's just not a crime problem they're worried about. So we talked about botnets before. This is just a screenshot of a botnet controller. So in this particular instance, you want to run your code on a botnet. You can define what your proxy settings are, where, so you can hide your command and control, and then what scripts do you want to run, how many bots do you want, in what regions. And then this is the one that, if you'll notice in the top right corner, how do you want to test for SMTP servers? What passwords would you like to use? You don't like these? That's okay, load some more. Right? So if we're going to try to hammer in with common passwords, and by the way, nobody goes one account, every password, right? It's every account, one password, and then every account, next password. So you can't actually see based on velocity that an account is being attacked, right? Unless it's a very clumsy attacker. All right. We having fun yet? So here's the setup. Susie Kent is our marketing manager at Wingtip Toys. Okay? And she has a responsibility to post on Facebook and Twitter and kind of keep Wingtip present in the social media sphere.
Part of her job.
It's part of her job, right? And she's not a bad person, and she has her own personal accounts, and she doesn't want to mix those up with her work accounts. So when she goes to Twitter or to anonymous social media site that's not being named here, to get her account set up, she uses her work email address. Seems reasonable, right? And then it asks for a password, and she says, I don't want to remember another password. So like 60% of people, she reuses the password too, right? So now we have a social media site out in the wild, and it's got her username and password. But it's a smaller site, it's more toy specific, it's, and best security for data at rest. And they get breached, and that data gets taken. And because the security of that data at rest wasn't fantastic, the passwords are decoded, and the username password pairs for everyone who's ever used that site goes up for sale. This is happening almost certainly while we're talking. We deal with many of these a day. At scale, we deal with one or two a month. Our banner month so far was August of last year. We processed 1.3 billion cred pairs in August of last year. In 2 weeks, we had 100% of those customers in our site protected, right? But for anyone who was in any other site, there's a problem with how do you tell them, right? So we're going to cover that now. So Susie's her creds have been breached. She doesn't know it. The site that got breached doesn't know it. You don't know it, right?
You don't know it yet.
But again,
You're
remember,
about to know it.
We've been in the dance with the bad guys for a very long time. Now we're going to start a long string of demos. So we've been in this dance with the bad guys for a very long time. And we have our ears to the ground in various ways. We get stuff sent to us by like the FBI. We have searches that go out and look on these things called paste bins, which is where the bad guys share their files. Right? They essentially, security through obscurity, they drop the file to the URL, and if you know where to pick it up, you can pick it up. And we, through a variety of mechanisms, will use one fingerprint of a file to expand it and find more accounts that are leaked. And so we're getting pretty good at this.
There's some advantage in being, the size of Microsoft, too, in terms of just the feed of information that sort of comes into the company and that you can share with other partners as well to kind of get this level of signal, which is great. It's a positive thing for us.
I call this the gravitational effect of fraud, right? It's the bigger you are, the more bad guys you attract. I'm going to go back in here real quick. You got a slide fault. Not a demo fault. All right, so come into work, and for Wingtip Toys, I come into work and I get this mail, right? And it says, essentially, a security alert has been triggered for your employee, Susie Kent. We have found her credentials online, right? You need to go take a look. Now, this is something we're working on now and should have out this summer, is this ability to wire in the workflows in various customizable ways. So you can say, we're going to get that email out to you with the data you want. The important part is that you're getting notified. And we're also looking at other mechanisms, which we'll show you in a minute. And be very interested in your feedback on what's the best way to alert you? What's the best way to get you notified?
So right now, just quickly, we've sort of entered into Azure Active Directory. And so we do have the ability to do alerting off of these reports. So once you kind of get that alert, you then come into the Azure Active Directory experience. And Alex is taking us over to the reports view of that.
So we'll talk about the rest of these reports in a minute. For now, just to keep the plot line going, you've got the notification. You can drill in here. And I'd love to blame the wireless, but we're actually wired right now. And we can see in here that Susie's account up here was discovered online, and we reported it to you at this time. Now, there's going to be latency, right? The bad guy stole the account, then they took some time to decode the account, then they started selling the account, and it got out into the ether enough that we picked up on it, and now we're reporting it. So there can be some time lag, right? And that'll be important for the rest of this. But as we go in here and we can see, Susie's in here, and we can go back and check on our reports here and look at generally other anomalous activity. And there's a bunch of things we can report on. We can do things like, and these are live now. So if you have Azure Active Directory, you can go look at these reports now. Hopefully you're not seeing a ton of traffic, right? But these are sign-ins from a Tor network, an anonymizing network. These are sign-ins from what we know are botnet-controlled machines. These are malware-infected machines. These are sign-ins that are strange and anomalous in terms of location. In fact, here's one for Susie. It looks like, along with being discovered online, she's signed in from a geodistant location. Right? What this means is that she traveled in a way that is probably impossible. Right? She was in Chicago and, pick a place, Berlin at the same exact time.
Expand Mike for a second there, too.
I'm sorry?
Expand out Mike for a second.
Yeah. If we see a person with multiple things, here we have Mike. He's showing up on a Tor. This is the concealed IP address. Okay? And then he's also signing in from geodistant locations. So the two of those together should get you a little bit nervous. Now, you will have people in your environment who are tin hats. They're people like me who go onto Tor because can, but mostly people who are on Tor networks are either severe security enthusiasts or bad guys, right? And there's not a lot of middle ground. And statistically, if you see a Tor network, you're probably not happy. Signing in from geodistant locations, so Susie's also got this problem. So we know her creds are online. We know she's signing in from strange locations. So we're going to go through here, and we can just reset her password right in the flow.
We don't have one of those zooming tools, do we? Just a question whether we can zoom in.
I don't know. We're going to try something crazy.
Nope.
Okay, it
You
worked.
guys didn't see
It
it,
worked,
but
but on
zoomed
the
in
wrong
the
screen.
slide
Yeah, sorry. We're trying to
Sorry,
zoom
we
the screen
can't really
in for you.
zoom it in, apparently.
Anyway.
I'm sorry about that, folks. But move up. There's tons of seats
Yep.
in the front, too. Feel free to move up. It's okay.
All right, so we can reset her password right in the flow. We've locked her account. So we know she's at risk, and now what we've done is we've gone ahead and discovered that threat and locked it down. But, dun, 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 dun.
Actually, did you say we reset our password right there? Okay.
Yeah, we locked it down. We reset her password. So here's the next part, is how many of you guys are using SIEM systems of some kind? So for your security response, you have some kind of existing dashboard and workflow you're trying to integrate into. And your strong preference is that we introduce a different one that you have to do all these tasks separately in, right? That's what you want? Okay. We heard the feedback. We got a lot of feedback. It's like, look, I've got existing systems. I really want to be able to integrate into existing systems. For the first time right now, we're going to demo some work that we've been doing, which is pretty cool, which is a REST and JSON-based interface on every report we do. And it's based on the OData standard. And what it does is allows us to hoist this data up into whatever environment you want. This is, a REST interface is going to get you into most of the SIEM systems. And so in this case, anybody here use Splunk? Couple? Cool. So we picked on Splunk. Splunk's one of our, I think, silver sponsors at the conference, so showing them some love.
The point being, though, you could do this in any SIEM system as well. I mean, it's pretty standardized.
And here what we've done is we've hoisted all the data you were seeing in that dashboard up into a Splunk dashboard. Exactly the same stuff, right? I'm getting some approving nods. All right, good. I got one more. All right. Okay, and then we can drill in here and we say, just to sort of prove it, it's the exact same data here. Susie's credentials were found online. If you wanted to wire this up into a richer workflow or use like other algorithms to bring this data in with other events, you could do that now through this programmatic interface. So we're really happy to bring this online. It opens up a lot of interesting integration possibilities.
So just one comment here, too, is we showed there's all those reports are available on Azure Active Directory today. The one we showed about leaked credentials, that isn't out yet. That's coming within the next month. But we're increasingly trying to bring signal in from what we've learned on the consumer side as well to bring it to the enterprise side. And the Splunk integration, like all that OData interface is there. And this is just something we've wired up and we'll make available. But it's open interface to pull the data down because we understand the data layer is perhaps as or more important than the UI.
So now you can kind of pick which one you want. I'm having a bear of a time with this thing. All right, we're going to go on to David's demo.
Sorry about this. It seems like the slide deck is like resetting every time we switch over to demos. So maybe we don't need to go to the screens. I don't know.
Maybe you can just,
we'll just
talk
keep going through the demos. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So where Alex left us was, we found, she got phished, and the credentials were out there in the wild, and we uncovered that, and we reported it to you, and you reset her password, which is actually a nice thing because, at least in our security reporting, we try to tie action in with the report. So when you see the report, take an action on this, reset the password on the user. So now that credential's no longer out there. But what it does do is it makes us wonder, holy cow, I mean, how much more of this is maybe going on in our organization? Like how much shadow IT do we have, right? How many other people? And Susie was just trying to do her job, but maybe there's a whole lot more other people in our organization that are in a similar circumstance. So how are you going to figure that out? Well, luckily we have an answer for you. Brad Anderson announced on Monday, we just recently GA'd our Cloud App Discovery. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in to the newer Azure portal, and I'm just taking my phone out because I'm going to need it in a minute. And I'm going to show you that. Hang on a second.
Boy, we'd be in big trouble if somebody had your password, right?
That would be.
It would
be a
problem.
good thing, but luckily for me on this tenant, Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure what happened there.
You can just close that.
Okay. Where am I here?
You're good. You know it's real when there's the awkward wait. Okay.
Yeah, let's try that again. All right. Oh,
Hey!
okay. So because I'm an administrator on this account, my organization has sensibly set up multi-factor authentication.
Hold it.
Might not be able to hear it. Can you hear it ringing? It's ringing, trust me. I better answer it.
Using Microsoft sign-in verification system. Please press the pound key to finish your verification. If you did not initiate this verification, someone may be trying to access your account.
Dun, dun, dun.
Press £0 to submit a fraud alert. This will notify your customer. Your account has been verified.
Okay.
Bye.
So what I'm just showing you there is that's our multi-factor authentication solution running. And because I'm an admin, it makes lots of sense to enable it for me.
What if I wanted text messages?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. There's more than one method here. We can configure it for oath code. We can configure it for text messaging. We
Push
configure it for push notifications as well. We have mobile applications across all the different platforms: iOS, Android, Windows Phone. And this is an iOS device. We're becoming very much we're a cross-platform. Microsoft and Identity Group, we're very much cross-platform. But the thing I want to land with you is that we do have a multi-factor authentication solution as well. And if you have EMS, if you've gone and purchased EMS, you actually have rights to it. And we strongly suggest, even if it's not our solution, that every company look at rolling out multi-factor authentication, because it's much harder, very easy to phish somebody and then use their credentials from somewhere else, over in some other foreign country. But it's not so easy to phish them and get hold of their phone. So
how many folks are using some kind of MFA now? That's cool.
That's great to see.
So just by show of hands, how many of you are dealing with friction issues now? Like friction complaints from users? No? Everybody's okay with it? Okay, we got a few half-hearted, a little bit of friction. They can suffer. Okay, so that's great. It's good to see so many people are adopting MFA. It's pretty critical. One thing that's happening that's very exciting in Windows 10 is the birth of this thing called NGC, Next Generation Credentials, which we're working in the industry with some standards. It allows, we're moving to a place where you can actually say, look, just no passwords in a way that's very usable. And so that's coming soon. For now, augment your passwords with multi-factor.
Mm-hmm. Multi-factor authentication not only applies in Office 365 identities, but you can extend it to your on-prem solution to use that in your job.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Awesome.
Thanks for raising that point. That is a great point, because our solution isn't just a cloud-based solution. We do have the multi-factor authentication from Microsoft can cover your entire premises. You get deployment options. You can deploy it on-prem. You can secure Radius. You can do all sorts of things with it. So it is a complete end-to-end solution. I'd recommend you take a look at it. And one other thing, too, is there has been some friction with the Office clients in the past, and that's being fixed in the next version of Office. So all the Office clients will support, server-side multi-factor authentication. So anyway, enough about multi-factor authentication. Let's dive on into Cloud App Discovery. So here we have the new Ibiza portal. And here, actually, if you go to the marketplace, you can go, just if you're trying home, under security and identity, you can see some new controls here. One of them is Cloud App Discovery. Another one that we'll be showing later is Privileged Identity Management. So I'll just come back up to the main dashboard. You can configure this dashboard any way as you wish, but we'll go into Cloud App Discovery. So here I am taking a look at my company, Wingtip Toys, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. We have 36 applications here. And 7 of them are under management by my organization, but 29 of them aren't. So I've got 29 applications out there that people are using where they're either putting they might not all be, but in some of them at least, they're probably putting corporate data up there, or they're using their own usernames and passwords. That's entirely outside of your control. We can drill in a little bit and see what's happening here, and we can see, here are the types of applications we've got, and we can see whether they're managed or whether they're unmanaged. We can see the amount of data volume. We can go deeper into one. Here's a collaboration one. This one is, in this case, managed. But we can go in and we can see, the number of users that are using this application, their data. We can actually even click in and we can see specific users that are using the app. And this is useful because it gives us the opportunity, you the opportunity as IT to go out and talk to those users, understand why they're using those applications. It might be that there already is a corporate managed instance of this application. It might be that you need to, maybe as IT, go and bring it under management. And there could be a legitimate business need for this application. Okay, let's back up just a sec here. And I know that Susie and others in the company, we have some social media. We as a corporation, use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of our things. And there we can see we've got people using LinkedIn. We have a corporate presence on LinkedIn. We use it for recruiting and promoting our company. And there are some people that legitimately need to use it. And, but at the moment, it's unmanaged. So
that's a lot of Susies. Right? That's a lot of Susies. There's a lot of people out there using these sites with probably the same enterprise passwords and enterprise creds, right?
So this is where we now that we've discovered it, we want to start solving the problem. So we can come here and we can say, okay, well, the recommendation here is let's manage LinkedIn with Azure Active Directory. And if you remember that very first, when I came in and showed the slide of, hopefully it will come for me quickly, show the slide of the identity as control plane and Azure Active Directory in there. Part of what we were trying to do is, here, let me just see if I can kickstart it in another window.
You got a typo in the beginning.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. This has happened to me once before. What we, uh-oh, what's going on here? You've signed out elsewhere. Wow. Wouldn't be a demo if I didn't get this sort of thing going on.
We're getting some demo fun here.
Huh?
So we're getting some demo benefits here.
All right. Carry me along here for a second, Alex, while we figure this out.
All right. So one thing that we're kind of walking up to is this issue that people are in your organization, they're going to do what they need to do, right? Like if I need to post to Twitter, I'm going to post to Twitter. If I need to share documents, I'm going to share documents. The issue here isn't how do we stop them from doing it, right? Is how do we help them do it in a secure way? So it would be nice if what could happen is when somebody comes into the organization, when they get hired in, right, you can auto-provision them with the things they're going to need for their organization, even if those things are external sites, right? And it's extra credit if they federate, but if they don't federate, you'd still like to not have the end user picking their own password for a sensitive social media site, right? Where we see, big social environments get compromised. There was like a one-day stock market crash, right? A year and a half ago, right? Because somebody tweeted on behalf of some organization and it was like we crashed everything. But that kind of thing can be avoided even if the site has passwords. At least we can ensure that the passwords are blinded and do some other things to help manage it. Again, it's not about stopping people. It's about helping them do things the right way. Dun dun dun.
There we go. I think what happened there, you know what I think happened there? I think what happened was I was talking too long, and so I got logged out before I transitioned across. Okay, so anyway, where were we? Okay, so LinkedIn, so we can come across to Azure Active Directory. And so that earlier picture I talked about, okay, you can use it to help manage your cloud applications. Well, how exactly do you do that? So once you're in Azure Active Directory, you can go under Applications, and let's search and see whether I have LinkedIn. And I think, it's not, it's not added yet. Okay, so I want to add an application. And this is going to be an application I'm going to add from our gallery.
How many apps are in the gallery?
And there are 2,500, almost 2,500 apps.
I think we're actually north of 2,700 now. But and we're adding them all the time. So
yeah, what we've done is we've pre-configured and made it easy to kind of get you hooked up with a whole set of SaaS applications. So here we're going to go, and I'm going to select LinkedIn. And I will add that. And so we're adding LinkedIn. And it's configured for single sign-on. So now I can go and look at the users and actually let me just, okay, go under users and groups. And then we're going to take a look at all the users. We're going to search. So first of all, so we added LinkedIn. Now this is something else that we help you with. So it's been added, but no users are enabled for LinkedIn yet, right? So you can see all these people are unassigned. Now let's say, as part of Susie's job, we have this one problem with this one social media group site, and we want her to go and work on LinkedIn as well. Now we don't want something similar to happen. We don't want her to put in her corporate username password at LinkedIn. So what we can do here is we can go and we can find Susie in our organization. There she is. And we can assign Susie to LinkedIn. And now me, as the admin, I'm going to put a username for her. And I'm going to create a very strong password that Susie will never know. And I can even go beyond that, and I can actually enable automatic rollover on this password. So now once I've done this...
Okay, that's a security nerd's dream feature, by the way, right? That password rolls. So even if it's intercepted on the wire, it's only going to be good for as many hours as you say it's good for, and then we're just going to roll it. So she not only doesn't know her password, but the password never sits around, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that breach that happened maybe a week ago, it's not a big deal because we're going to roll that password out.
And so it's good because in social, so what Susie's experience here is that when she wants to go use LinkedIn, as long as she's signed in, right, just signed into her work account, she can just go to the LinkedIn site and she gets automatically signed into it, and she's never entered a password. She doesn't even know her credentials to get into LinkedIn. So she can't really be phished for this. And this actually, for some of these sites, this is a big deal. I mean, company reputations are out there in the internet on things like Twitter and LinkedIn, things like that. So we've given you a tool here. So it's not just LinkedIn we're talking about here. You can do productivity apps. You can do Salesforce. You can do, Dropbox. You can do all sorts of applications. And that's what we're trying to do, make it easy for you to federate these in, bring them under management, and then also make sure that, your people are not using credentials out there with these applications. So that
In addition, you can also add your on-prem applications right here in this portal that also shows up in Office 365 app launcher. So you can have one interface that user can come in and securely and get it not only SaaS applications but your on-prem applications.
that's actually,
That's
thank
right.
you for raising that.
And you can also link it into your provisioning and deprovisioning flows so that you're automatically granting that access when you hire the person and automatically revoking it when you fire them.
Yeah.
Or when they leave for greener pastures.
It is true. You can extend this sort of surface area to everything you do on-prem and to your own applications. We have like SDKs where you can write your own applications that you want to publish out there on the internet. You can secure them too. Again, using that single set of enterprise credentials. The advantage being, of course, somebody leaves the company, you can sort of remove their access. If we go under configure here, another thing I want to show you as well is we also have the ability to set access rules on a per application basis. So let's say we don't feel it's enough, or we have a different app where we can't do like really strong credentials and people actually need to know their credentials. Let's say we even want even more security around this LinkedIn site. We can go in here and we can say for a particular user or group, so if we go in here and I'll go and add a group, and what would be a logical group for Susie?
Somebody for Susie.
Something with the name Susie in it, I'm betting. So let's just, there we go. Susie's marketing team. Okay, that seems like the right sort of group to add in here. Okay, Susie's marketing team. So we want Susie's marketing, only people from Susie's marketing team, they are going to require, we're going to require multi-factor authentication to access this site. So here we've locked it down even more. When somebody goes there and tries to log in to LinkedIn in this case, they're not only going to, they're going to get a challenge on their phone, and they're going to have to do that same multi-factor authentication you saw me do earlier. So these are ways in which, and one thing I also mentioned, you can apply it across the whole organization, or you can just apply it, with discretion to particular applications, depending on, and this is us trying to, give you lots of control around security policy and have it be as granular and as strong as you need it to be, depending on the sort of application that the person's trying to get at.
We might, for Susie, given that we know her username is out there in the wild and being attacked, we might also choose to just take her as a user and say, in every scenario, she has to do MFA. So that's another option that we have for Susie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So now we're at the point where we've gone there, we turned off the we resecured Susie. We found out she was phished. We resecured her. We changed her password. We went in there. We maybe went and enabled multi-factor authentication for her or our whole company. And then we went through our application. We went and found what are all the other applications people are using. We discovered them. We brought them now under management, made them part of Azure Active Directory so that people are using corporate credentials with them. And then we also maybe picked a few that we thought, boy, we need to make these extra secure, and we put multi-factor authentication on those. Now that's all great. We sort of went from the outside of the circle, where we discovered shadow IT, and we strengthened the boundary, right? But what have we done about the fact that maybe Susie's credentials were out there for in these attacks, I hear sometimes it's 7 months, right, before a company realizes they've been breached.
So the average is about a year. On average, credentials that are leaked remain leaked without the company's knowledge for about a year.
So what can we do about this, Alex?
Well,
I mean, what can we do to?
I'm so glad you asked. What we can do now, these demos are some of them are really features we've had. Some of them we just released. A lot of wet paint today. You're seeing a lot of new features. This one, just because it runs in a VM. So I'm breathing fast right now.
Oh, do you want? Okay.
Well,
I'll give the intro while you do that. So,
no, that's fine. So, we're okay. Quick.
You live?
Yes.
Okay, good.
One moment.
Now,
we're
this
going to
was
flip
something else
over.
Brad covered.
All right. So, I am extremely excited, although a little nervous, to demo this running in a VM of a product called Advanced Threat Analytics. Okay, Advanced Threat Analytics is something that we're integrating in now, and what it allows us to do is build a graph of the interactions on the network that are normal, right, and then actually detect abnormalities. And in this particular case, what we're seeing here is that we have a suspicion of identity theft based on abnormal authentication, right? And we can see that Susie Kent has 2 machines that she uses on a regular basis, okay, but has suddenly popped up on 7 new unusual machines in her environment. And while there are many resources she uses regularly, she's suddenly started using some unusual resources, including the strategy file system, the strategy file share, okay? So we know now that it is, and that's from an unusual machine. So we know that Susie's account, those creds were used against our enterprise, that they were probing around on different machines in the enterprise using network discovery to just try, let's get around those IP, sec blocks or whatever they needed to get past the firewalls, get in far enough to find the strategy file server, and so they've been messing around in that environment. Now, while we're in this environment, I want to sort of show you. We can kind of get a timeline view of this particular attack, of kind of how things have have worked in this environment. And here again, we can see, this access to the strategy file share and when it happened and from what machine it happened. So that gives us a lot of information to go on to start tracking down where was the damage done inside of our environment. This product, Advanced Threat Analytics, also does things like detecting pass the ticket attacks. It detects LDAP hammering, so where you have old protocols that are susceptible to massive retry. You want to do multiple passwords against a single account. Anything that's unusual is going to pop up in this tool, so that you have extremely good optics into what's happening inside your network, right, inside your domain. So this tool is we're really excited to bring this on board. It is essentially the natural mate to what we're doing in the cloud, and between the two of them, we're going to kind of weave a very tight web to create a nice security plane for you, where whether the activity is happening on LinkedIn or is happening against your Azure Active Directory or it's happening in Office 365 or down in your on-premises services, we're able to follow it and help you get optics on it so that you can remediate it. So this is a very, very strong part of our detection play. And again, tons of honey token activity, brute forcing, like any kind of abnormal activity in your network. This will actually detect it and build you a timeline and help you tear down where were the accesses and what got accessed. Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, just 2 questions. So, when you were saying here are the applications that people are using, it's a client I have to install on people's machines, right?
That's right.
Is that available for Mac and other OSs?
Oh, no.
Only the client on all my servers, or how do you get
Sure. Great questions. Okay, so the questions were for the Cloud App Discovery. I need a client, and is it available on Mac and a whole bunch of other devices? That was the first question. And the second one, how does this work? Does this need a client as well? So to the first question, it's on Windows PCs at the moment, right? We're also building out a proxy solution that allows you to do other devices that are not like corporate managed and discover them. So it's sort of one of those problems you got to triangulate and have more than one piece of technology to get a lot of discovery. But one good thing is, you know, even with a sampling, you can get a really good sense of what people are doing. You don't have to get it to everybody. If you get it to enough people, you do kind of get a general sense of like where the shadow IT problem is. On what we just showed here with advanced threat analytics, you can lift it back up. What we showed here with advanced threat analytics is this sits on your network. It's just something you install on a server that just has network access. And basically, it's just listening in on the network. It's looking at the on-prem traffic today. But as Alex said, we kind of want to, you know, and you can see in the earlier stuff we demoed, we're looking at cloud stuff. And we are going to sort of extend and unify the paradigm over time, right? It's just a statement of where we are just at this moment. But with this technology, it just sits there, listens to the network, and basically reconstructs all the discussion that's going on. It looks at who's talking to who and what entities are talking to what entities, and it builds out a graph, and it starts learning, okay, this is what normal looks like. And then we can show you what abnormal looks like.
To clarify, you're asking about an agent. There's a server, but there's not a client agent required.
There's no agent in this case.
So yes, it will pick up the traffic from the Android or the iOS device or whatever.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in order to get to this reporting feature or analytics here in Azure Active Directory, does it tie back to the machine learning in Azure, or it has no connection between Azure machine learning and the new advanced features that we are seeing in Azure Active Directory?
So we have both on the consumer side and pre-existing on the enterprise side, although we're bringing them together. We have a very long and deep investment in ML, and the Azure ML team has some technology that we work with them on. In some cases, our investments pre-existed some of theirs, and there's some integration happening. So I would not describe this platform as having been built on their ML, although over time it'll become more and more.
So right now, as a customer, I can go and start leveraging these functionality without configuring and without bothering about Azure machine.
That's right. It's
Absolutely.
completely, yeah, it's independent. You're going to interact with it at a reporting level. You know, our system, like the system we're bringing on, we have it in the consumer side now, and we're bringing it online very soon, is, you know, we're scoring 10 billion logins a day on 90 plus data points, and the algorithm self-adapts daily, right? And so we're bringing that same thing to your enterprise environment, you know, for the logins as well. And so, you know, there's a lot of great stuff happening. We already have a set of ML-based reports that you can go look at now that I showed you earlier that look at anomalous logins.
That anomalous login report, that was an ML-based report.
The key thing that's different here is that, you know, we're going to be bringing more of it into real-time alerting and that sort of thing. So
We're going to, you know, at the moment, a lot of the security reporting you see here is we've trolled through after the fact and found things that look anomalous. The next stage, and we do this on our consumer side, is to have a real-time engine where we like score the session as it's happening and like block or apply policy that you might have configured to like deal with what looks like a risky session. And that's going to be very exciting when we do that.
Coming soon.
Let's proceed.
Coming soon.
So that we get through it all.
All right.
Thank you for the questions, though. Those were great questions.
Yeah. And comments. I'll get you a mic because he's remembering to say things that we're forgetting to say.
So you used Aorado to go and find abnormal behavior, right?
Right.
And her usage on
And what we found out was that somebody using Susie's creds had broken in and had accessed our strat file share. So one thing we wanted to show you here is a little bit about remediation.
Which could be like the worst thing that could ever happen to your company. If you think about like what happened with some of the Sony breaches, things like that, I mean, it can be pretty devastating.
All right. So I'm going to try to do this in a way that we don't have to reset the slide count again. See how that plays out. All right. So what we're seeing here is a look at a file from that file share, from the strategy file share. And this is the RMS, the rights management server tracking feature, which allows us to go and see how the file is accessed and how it's being used. And so in this particular file, what we're able to do...
Well, we should probably say you had to do something ahead of time, right here?
Thankfully, the geniuses at Wingtip Toys IT had actually set up RMS and had already applied policy to this share, right? And for our storyline here, what we're going to say is the policy didn't actually restrict who it could be sent to. It just ensured it was under management, right? So in this case, the person acting as SUSE has sent the strategy file off to someone else, right, who's trying to look at the file. And what we're going to show here is that we can see where the file is being accessed, and it's fine for it to be accessed, where we have business operations in North America and Europe, but we don't have any operations in Shanghai or Sydney yet. And so we're thinking that given that SUSE's creds were compromised and that we obviously had an extraction of serious data, we're just going to go through here and we're going to revoke access. All right, and we can even pop a nice message, bug off. Right? And so when somebody gets notified that, hey, you can't access this file anymore. The key thing here is that having your documents under rights management allows you to do this kind of retention and pullback. So this is an example of being able to go through and using RMS, go through and protect your data at rest. Yes? In this particular case,
yeah,
go with me.
You can't apply it after the fact, unfortunately. Yeah.
So when it was transparent, it's not like you have to enter the full-on rights management where you're sending it to Europe individually, set up the rights or whatever. It's just global.
So you can set a global policy on a file so that the person logging in as SUSE can send that file, and the person on the other end has to authenticate, but the authentication can be with any account. So in this, if we wanted to tell the full storyline, the recipient here went ahead and created a quick Microsoft account or whatever, a throwaway account, so they could try to access the file, right?
But I think
so now we're pulling the file back.
The broader question might have been, can you just apply it like at a share level or something like that? And the answer to that is yeah. And as a company, it makes sense, like strategy doc, right? I mean, there are sensitive documents, like lots of companies kind of go through and think about what's my HBI, high business impact, medium business impact, low business impact. Clearly, some stuff is pretty high business impact, and it makes sense to try and put rights management protection on these things. And features like this that allow you to see where they go and then later destroy the document out where it is, that's pretty cool, right? And that's a new thing that we've recently come out with. Yeah. That is a great question that I'm not sure of the answer to. We might have to follow up.
I believe the answer is yes, but let's follow up afterwards, and I'll get your name, and I can just send you an email. I'll get an expert on it. I believe that you can actually you can certainly do content-based, because this file contains these things, and metadata-based attribution. But I would want to understand the nuances of the question.
Okay, so let's see. Where's my window here?
You want to talk about what we're doing next?
Where it's the PIM? Yeah.
I'll talk about it. So one of the problems here, right, is that SUSE had too much access, right? Her creds were just too powerful. And, we see this all the time where, you get added to a group for a little while so you can do some task, like an administrative task, or you can access a sensitive SharePoint site or a sensitive file share. But then you retain that access, and you just kind of aggregate it over time, right? And so one of the things we want to do is make it possible to say that our exposure is limited, that when somebody needs access, they have to request that access, and the access is automatically revoked after the task is complete. And so what Dave is going to show you now is walking through privileged identity management as a way to kind of control and regulate that, so that if Susie's accountant hadn't had so much access, and if she'd had to go through a notification system before she'd gotten the access, maybe we didn't have the leak of the data in the first place.
Yeah. So this is another feature that's just been released into preview. It's available on-prem and the cloud, covers sort of both scenarios. And so we'll go in, and it's another one of those things you can pull out of the marketplace here on the new portal and just add to your homepage. So here's privileged identity management, and I can go in here and first of all, let's say I want to go and manage identities. But wait, there's a message here. I'm currently not in the role of a security administrator. It's not yet active. I want to make it active so that I can go and manage privileged identity management. So actually, this is us using privileged identity management to manage privileged identity management. So let me go and activate my role. So I'm here. I'm going to make myself a security administrator, and I'm going to make myself active for some period of time. And the reason is because I'm demoing the great feature. And there we go. So now I've been elevated up. Now, remember, the reason we're doing this is too many companies have too many people that are admins just all the time, right? And there's also really not necessarily a lot of tracking as to, okay, why are they being an admin? What are they doing? Why are they being an admin for this period of time? You can lock a lot of this down with a feature like this. You can basically make most of your users just users, and then if they need to do an admin activity, they get elevated up for a brief period of time and then drop back down. So let's go. Now that I've activated myself, I can go and I can actually go and manage identities now because I'm now in this role. And you can see, I just want to, here, let me close it down. I'm going to remove a little bit of the noise here. And if we just look under settings, we can say these are the different types of roles. And then say on the global administrator, I get some configuration around this. I can configure global administrators when I elevate someone to global administrator. How long do I want that activation to last? How many hours? I might want to send, do notifications on activation. And maybe, I have a ticketing system. I actually need someone to have ticketing information that they enter every time that they elevate themselves to be an admin because, there's some workflow here. There needs to be some accountability. I want to trace what's happening. It depends on, your organization. So this is just showing you the policy that I can apply. And, of course, I can do similar policies on different roles, in the organization. So this is kind of like how you get it set up initially. And then if you want to go in, you might want to take a look. And it's showing me the number of people in the different roles. So here I've got 27 global administrators. And our 27 people in global administrator role, and 26 of them are permanent admins. Let's go take a look at them for a second. Come on. There we go. Okay, and they pulled up. Let's look in here and see everyone we have. Can't remember if we put Susie in here, but there's me. Now I don't, I'm only doing this for a demo periodically, right? Do I really need to be a global admin all the time? Probably not. So I can take myself as a permanent admin and then just make me temporary in this role. And so when I do this, now I've shifted, right? I'm no longer somebody that has permanent admin credentials all the time. I'm now somebody here that is a temporary admin. I have to go through that process where you saw, I have to request sort of elevation, and then I have to do the ticket, and I have to do those sorts of things every time I want to take an admin sort of activity going forward. And so that's just a quick introduction to, oops, I don't want to do that. So that's a quick introduction to what we're doing in privileged identity management.
Cool.
There we go. It is, yeah. So the new portal.
Portal.azure.com.
Yeah, I used to go into manage.azure.com. Yeah. So portal.azure.com. And you'll see more and more of the Azure workloads kind of being shifted over. They're going through this transition thing. I think they might have announced a GA for it just recently, a build or something. Okay. So that sort of brings us to the end of some of the demos that we were doing. So just to wrap, question, sure. Can you all add your own groups to that? I'm not.
Your own groups to
the security, can you add your own, basically your own roles and stuff? Is that what you're saying, create custom roles? I don't believe
you can certainly add groups. I don't know if I think you can add roles, but I'd want to get back to you on that one.
Yeah. And remember, too, we're probably about 6 months or so in on this feature. So, there's going to be a lot to come, and we're going to refine it over time, things like that. Okay, so let's kind of just recap what we saw. So prevention, we showed you in terms of, the prevention, detection, remediation framework. We showed you MFA. Just even for your admins or for Susie or on a per application basis. We showed you SaaS application management, how, there's this shadow IT. Let's bring it under management so that we're using corporate credentials and have it under sort of IT control. Showed you conditional access. That was when you went in on a per application basis, turn on MFA for a particular group. We're increasing the rule set around that as well. It'll be things like time of day, certain type of device. We actually have a whole strategy with Intune where, you can select what devices can manage, is the device jailbroken or not. A whole bunch of device logic around that as well. We showed you RMS and PIM. Alex just called me. I said, don't all leave yet because we're going to talk about the future a little bit in a minute too. But we talked about RMS and privileged identity management as well as things to help prevention. Okay, he's moving me forward. All right, fine. Let's talk about the future for a sec. So we are thinking about, our plan is to take a lot of those, you saw some cloud, capabilities in cloud, some of the advanced threat analytics on-prem. We want to bring this together into sort of one sort of hybrid identity, risk dashboard, and risk control plane so that you can really understand what's going on with your identities and evaluate the risk and detect breach and have good prevention across them, just across your organization, irrespective of where you're running your application. When I showed that circle, it didn't say like cloud only. It had like line of business, SaaS apps, Office 365. It had cloud and on-prem. You wanted to protect applications no matter where they are. Some of the things, you're going to see in the shorter term is you're going to see more security reporting. You're going to see us bringing more real-time sort of prevention and remediation online. You're going to see us bringing together, unifying kind of the view, trying to pull together all the risk signals into one place. These are things we're going to try and do, over the next year or so to sort of bring together a more cohesive story here. I think a lot of security detection with the companies I talk to has happened traditionally. They're looking for malware. They're trying to stop things at the firewall. But, as things move to the cloud, that doesn't, you can't really do that anymore to the same extent. I mean, you can't get firewall logs from, like, your SaaS server provider and, like, troll through them. I mean, just finding malware on machines doesn't help you with insider attacks. I mean, every attack is happening in the context of an identity. Every one, right? And so,
This is home.
geez, you're really rushing me forward.
Bring us home, man.
So, okay.
Identity is a control
All right.
plane, yeah.
Every attack is happening in the context of identity. And so that's something to bear in mind. I mean, we think that identity is, part of the security control plane. And we're not as convinced that there have been great solutions out there really targeting identity as a way to kind of get ahead of threat. And so that's what we're trying to bring to you. That's where we're headed in the future. So anyway, thank you very much for your attention and time and all those things, for coming. Good morning.
Please
Appreciate
do
it.
your evaluations. I was told to say that, so do your evaluations,
Oh, yes, please.
And we're here for questions for...
Yeah, we'll
Couple
take them
minutes.
from the floor for a bit, too, if people want to hear them all.
One question.
Yep,
You said about the endpoint devices that somebody has put in the master plan.
yeah.
Hi. How are you? Okay, let me... yeah.
Is being accessed by somebody probably in any device, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the dependency on Windows as an endpoint device? This is what I'm not getting.
Okay, sorry. Run this by me. Run it by me one more time.
So the question was
Right. I think what I... oops.
this all these reporting, all these good security features is tied to a particular endpoint, right? Is it going to be?
No, so those aren't. So the security reports and stuff, they aren't tied to it. So,
what I'm saying.
yeah, they aren't tied to an endpoint.
They're not tied to endpoint.
No.
So that is
No, his question, specific question, was for cloud app discovery, understanding where people are traveling and what SaaS apps they're accessing, does that use an agent? The answer to that is yes. The reporting, like where do people, like all that intelligence we had in those reports, that's not tied to any endpoint. Yeah. So I was answering a very specific question of his. What am I referring to? So Cloud App Discovery, I'm referring to our ability to detect what software as a service applications a user goes and uses. In their, and wherever they are, on-prem, cloud, what have you. Yes. Yeah. Do you guys? We can do like structured questions if you guys like. I mean, I don't mind doing them ad hoc like this, or you guys can like, if we think there's benefit for the room type questions. It's up to you guys how you want to do it. Okay, I'll take them up here, but I'll give the answers to everybody. I'll repeat the question, give the answers. Oh, okay, so you're saying, yeah, I see what you're saying. You're asking, okay, so your question is, okay, what about Susie's pre-existing data in her social application? That's what you're asking. So in this case, that's not really our scenario here. I mean, Susie can have her own sort of personal LinkedIn usage, and maybe that's perfectly okay, right? But for the corporate LinkedIn site, we're probably going to, we're not going to pull forward her own data. There'll be the corporation's data there, and it'll probably be like a restart new profile. So for that sort of social media type scenario, there seems like there's less need to kind of pull forward that stuff.
Can I expand on that?
Sure, for sure, yeah.